What's up, everybody? This is the Horsemen Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Josh Romine. With me tonight, got Joshua Van Cleve. What's up, my man?
Hey, hey, hey.
Got Alex DeVinny Stoner. What's up, dude?
Hi, Romine.
Hello, and Brent Ocker. How are you, sir?
Doing great.
That is amazing. All right, tonight we're going to be talking the NFC South. I'll do my random question. We'll do a little fantasy stopwatch, and we'll do a off-the-top segment where I'll list some players, and you guys are going to give me some gut reactions, and then we'll get into our NFC talk. So, random question of the night is, other than Ezekiel Elliott, what rookie are you guys most excited to see start the regular season?
Oh, man. Wow. Probably Laquan Treadwell.
Why?
I think there's so much going on around that team that there's talks of them being a contender, in real football being a contender. I want to see how much he can contribute to that. Does it actually help the passing game? Do you get that fantasy value from that team now with him being added? Because right now we're just going on a carousel of wide receivers from Minnesota. So I think can he be that consistent guy? Obviously we won't know till year 2, but it would be exciting to see if he can step up.
Mm-hmm. So. I could get down with that. He scares me.
Yeah,
I have him in so many leagues too.
The thing is that I think I'm kind of leaning the same way, and that's simply because it's not up to him. It's up to Bridgewater, who, in my opinion, is awful, and I don't like him at all. I don't think that he is anything more than a game-managing quarterback, and I don't think that bodes well for his wide receivers. But the highlights that I saw from him looked really awesome, and so it could be something where even if Bridgewater is terrible, he could still be great.
Mm-hmm.
So he can make a lot of plays.
I'm really excited about him. How about you, Brent? You got anybody different other than Treadwell?
We've talked enough about Sterling Shepard, so I'm going in a different direction. Let's try a guy like Michael Thomas from the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. The guy right now, of course, he's 4th, 5th string. He's going through his rookie struggles, but guess what? He's not even having struggles. People are praising this guy in New Orleans Saints training camp and OTAs. Apparently, he's built this rapport with Drew Brees already. If you have a quarterback like Drew Brees, he's gonna be getting the ball. I think in what amount because of that crowded wide receiver corp, but guess what? He's making plays. He's been compared to a guy like Demaryius Thomas for his after-the-catch ability and ability to burst into a speed after the catch. But I think he's going to be a huge playmaker around the end zone, and Drew Brees is going to target him that way.
I think, and just to kind of go off your point, Brent, last time Drew Brees talked up a wide receiver was Brandon Cook. So that shows good signs because Brandon Cook, you saw some good things out of him. So that's great when you see Drew Brees stepping up and saying he's liking him.
Well, and the thing that's most exciting about Michael Thomas too is the way that he fits into that offense. You can still see him being dynamic, and Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead both still providing some offense too. You can see Michael Thomas kind of stepping in there and doing that role.
And I really don't see Michael Thomas as a big volume guy. I do see him, they're going to bring in 4 wide receivers near, inside the 20, inside the red zone. And he's going to make a big play in the end zone. I could easily see him getting 8 touchdowns this year. It seems high, but it's reasonable, especially with that quarterback and that offense.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, well let's go and transition from a wide receiver that we're excited about to one that I'm not as excited about. We're going to do our fantasy stock watch. It appears that the stock is up on Steve Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. The 37-year-old wide receiver will be activated from the PUP list and will begin practicing, according to NBC Sports' Darren Gant. This was the first I'd heard of it when I read it on there, so I don't know. Is that – I mean, obviously it's good he's being taken off the PUP, but realistically, what are we expecting from Steve Smith?
I mean, I think just kind of cover real quick, just from our last podcast. Just I think that you can see he's going to be an injury risk being with the age he is. I know that he last year was supposed to be the season, but he got in his early for him, so he's really wanting to make this last year be a great one. And he's always been a fighter, so I can think you can see good things. I don't think you're going to get the Steve Smith of old. I think you're going to get maybe an 800-yard guy that can get maybe 67 receptions. I think Mike Wallace is going to help him get there just because he's going to help stretch the field. That's all I got.
I think when I looked at the stats on him, he was actually really good before he got hurt. But the season before, he was kind of a first half guy where he was really good out of the gate and then kind of trailed off. Mm-hmm. I think that is kind of what happens with age. I mean, you even saw it with quarterbacks like Peyton Manning. Last couple of years, like the front end was loaded with all these great things, and then kind of pushed himself 1 year too far, and he just was absolutely awful. I think that you might see that. Eventually, your body breaks down; it can't handle that, and I could see kind of an injury-laden last year for Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, I mean, from reports, he's coming back this season just to get 1,000 receptions.
Yep.
He is currently 39 receptions away from that. He got 46 receptions all last season in 7 games. So if he can make it to Game 7,
but I mean, 47 receptions in, you said 8 games?
7 games.
7 games. I mean, the end would have been almost 100 catches.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he was playing at a high level even at 36 years old. So I'm not saying that it can't be done. It's just that at some point your body falls off, and 37 is old.
He shredded his Achilles last year. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a double rupture from what they were saying.
Ugh.
I think he showed pictures of it too, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
Didn't like sand come out of that because he's old?
it's nothing. There was no. Yeah. It was
yeah, I don't know, man. I hope he does. I like Steve Smith as a player. He's fun to watch. He's exciting. So we'll see. All right. Looks like the stock is down on Jimmy Graham, according to NFL.com's Connor Orr. Jimmy may miss the start of the season, which is kind of different from a lot of the reports I have been reading that were suggesting, Jimmy Graham is going to be coming off the pup and was looking to be maybe ready for the start of the season. So these reports come out saying he's not. I don't know. Seems like something I might want to stay away from at this point.
It's kind of what we were saying in a few podcasts ago when we weren't sure if he was going to be playing at all this season, or maybe they should put him on the pup list and let him get that full healing time until week 8, or like I was saying, maybe they just bring him along slowly, let him do all out of the run blocking, and then work him into the passing game later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, my thing is that I think that I think they're rushing him. I don't think that this is a good thing at all, that they're like, yeah, okay, they've been saying that, oh yeah, he's getting ready. I don't think they should be rushing him. I think that it's based on the fact that they are paying him a lot of money to be their tight end. They got better when he went out. Let him sit the bench for a while. Let him get better. I understand that he's a competitor and he wants to compete, but I mean, Victor Cruz can't get on the field. I mean, same injury. Just sit and get better. I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he wants to come back to get to 1,000 receptions also. He's 566 away. So.
Still attainable.
He's right there. He's so close.
I don't know. I'm staying away. This news just makes me want to stay. I drafted him in the league when I was reading all the reports about him coming and starting at the beginning of the season. I was thinking I'm going to get him for cheap, late. I can stash him as long as I have some other tight ends. What's it hurt if I'm taking him with a, third
and
to
if
last
you can,
pick?
Great. If you can get him late and stash him, great. But don't expect him to be your number one.
Yeah, don't draft him to start him.
No.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to the next piece of news. The stock is up on DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. Murray ran for 93 yards, and Henry ran for 74 yards in Tennessee's preseason opener. I wanted to talk about both these guys a little bit later in the show on something, but
gorgeous.
It was exciting, right?
They are gorgeous. I love both of them.
It was fun to watch, but what do you think? Like, is it going to be a two-headed monster, or?
I mean, if it's a two-headed monster and they can put up, I mean, Derrick Henry put up 7 yards a carry, and DeMarco was like around 9 or something. I mean, granted there was a 71-yard run by DeMarco, but it's promising. Again, we look at things that are bad and say, oh, don't worry about it, it's preseason. We kind of have to still pump the brakes a little bit and say, well, who was actually out there on defense? Was it all their starters? Like, what was going on? But as far as showcasing what they have the ability of doing, that's exactly what they did, and that's good.
Yeah, you know who else looked good? Bishop Sankey.
God.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move it into the off the top segment. I got a list of some players over here. I'm gonna read each of you off 5 names individually. I'm gonna have you just tell me the first thing that comes to your head, and then I want to go back and touch on one of them. Let's start off with Brent. I got 5 names here for you. You ready, buddy?
Yeah.
All right. First name, Frank Gore.
Old.
Second name, Derrick Henry.
Young. Powerful. Huge.
Third name, Marcus Mariota.
Fast.
Fourth name, Torrey Smith.
Blah.
And fifth name, Antonio Gates.
Old but productive.
All right. Well, we just kind of talked about the DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. I do want to touch a little bit more on Derrick Henry because it makes me, I don't know, it makes me excited to see what they can do. But what are your expectations?
I really don't have a whole lot of expectations this early in the season. You're drafting him pretty much as a handcuff because if they're going to be running the ball as much as they say they're going to be running the ball, and something was to happen to DeMarco Murray, I would want Derrick Henry on my team. Derrick Henry looks like a monster. The guy, he ran a ton in college, and I'm not really worried because of how young he is still, but he's not like a big back where he's bulky like Eddie Lacy or LeGarrette Blount. The guy is just flipping muscle. That's it. That's all he is a ball of muscle, and you don't want to get hit by that.
Muscle.
So do you want to own him even if you don't have DeMarco Murray?
I don't know if I want to draft Derrick Henry as high as he's going, but
especially now.
Yeah, his value his ADP is going to go up after this first preseason game for sure. But so is DeMarco Murray's. But if they're going to be running the ball like that, then I want to invest in that thing.
Yep. All right. Well, Alex, are you ready for your set of names?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Well, leading off with what we were just talking about, DeMarco Murray.
Bounce back.
Second name, Stephon Diggs.
I don't care.
Third name, Carlos Hyde.
Potential.
Tony Romo.
Suck.
And Jordan Reed.
Overrated.
Let's talk about Jordan Reed. So overrated. He's coming off the board as the second tight end.
And high. I don't like that. I don't like a guy that has a concussion history, has had a hard time staying on the field. I don't like that where he's going. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have the talent, doesn't have the skill set. I'm not saying anything about how he plays. It's simply where he's being drafted and those questions that all of a sudden people are completely ignoring.
Yeah, so you probably won't own him.
No, because he's going way too early. I don't know what his ADP is, but I mean, it's obviously not Gronk level, but I would rather wait and get a Greg Olsen if I'm going to draft a tight end high. I'd rather get a Greg Olsen than a Jordan Reed simply because of the value I think you can get for a Greg Olsen.
So according to Fantasy Pros,
Yeah.
he's coming off as the 38th overall player. So,
That's
4th round.
Start of the 4th.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It would depend on how my draft was shaken out, but if I'm going no RB, then I'm probably going to take another wide receiver, or if there's a really good value there in the 3rd round, then maybe I'll grab a running back. But and if I'm going running back, then I'm going to go wide receiver. I don't like getting tight ends quite that early, and so. In most situations, I'm not going to have a Gronk. I'm not going to have a Jordan Reed. I would rather get that next tier. I'd rather get a Travis Kelce or a Greg Olsen, simply because I like the value there, where there's a lot of questions, as for me at least, of what is Jordan Reed going to do in his 2nd year since kind of taking over this role.
All right. You ready for your names there, Van Cleef?
I am.
All right. First name, Tyler Boyd.
Exciting.
Second name, Doug Baldwin.
Not exciting.
Philip Rivers.
First half.
Lamar Miller.
Ooh.
Ooh and ah.
There you go. That's with that. There's a word that I specifically wanted for him, but I can't think of it. So.
Latavius Murray.
It has final year.
Let's talk about that.
All right. What I mean by that is he's got this final year to prove himself to be a number 1 running back, or I think he's got DeAndre Washington right on his heels.
Yeah.
There's been so many different reports from Latavius Murray as far as like him not understanding the playbook and the plays, not be able to get manage that, so that's why he's lagging. And they drafted a wide receiver, but then Del Rio's like, no, we like him. We're going to be running more with him. And so there's mixed things coming in and out. And it's just like I don't know what there is, because I've seen that explosiveness out of him, and he can be that exciting player. But then yet he really wasn't like he performed, but he didn't like. He wasn't performing like a number 1, I guess. He was like a number 2 running back, which is decent.
Very consistent.
Yeah. He's more like a number 2 with upside. He's a serviceable running back for fantasy purposes. But I think that if he can't get it done or anything happens, I think that they'll move DeAndre Washington in his place.
I hate to say this too, because Romine has stocked him all these players. I see him and Thomas Rawls like the same type of guy, like this guy that really the team doesn't like. Like for whatever reason, they just don't like him and they want to move on, and so they're putting other people in place to see what can happen.
I'm not buying that narrative, and maybe I am like a little bit because I'm invested in them. But like Del Rio was literally just the other day said that he wants Latavius Murray to have more carries than he did last year. Last year, he had over 250 carries. He stayed healthy through the year. He slowed down because they did not have a change of pace back last year. They had, Roy Halou?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that with them adding Washington, yes, I would love to have him as my handcuff to Murray. Do I think that he could take over the lead back role? I don't think they'd have a choice. They're giving reps to fullbacks for the running back position.
Yeah.
This news excited me. Like it made me feel a lot better. That offensive line is awesome. Oakland's offensive line is so beefed up. It's like the 2nd-rated line just behind Dallas. I don't know.
I like this. I like where Oakland is going. They're really building a strong team, and like you said, that was exciting news from Del Rio. But it's just like I still have question marks around it. Like I even had invested last year. I liked him. It's just I wasn't sure because it's just like how they were using him and stuff, and they didn't feel like
he shows flashes, and then those flashes are followed up by kind of this like meh. And then he'll show another flash. Yeah, he goes up and down. I think they're just looking for more consistency. And maybe Del Rio's just trying to give a little bit more of a pep in Murray's step and just hope that it'll kind of like, okay, I've got the team behind me. I can run with it. No pun intended.
Well, and that's a big deal if you got the coach behind you on it. We've seen what coaches that aren't behind their players can do to them. They'll drive them straight out of town. So I
Like
don't
Darrell
know,
Green Beckham.
like DGB. But all right, cool. Well, all right, guys, good talk. Let's move it along into our NFC South breakdown. Brent, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pal. What
I
do you
do.
got?
I'm going to jump straight into the question. Josh Romine.
Oh.
Let's talk about a little bit of Doug Martin.
The muscle hamster? What do you want to talk about?
Muscle hamster.
Muscle
Oh,
hamster.
All right, so what are the factors that you think come into play for not taking Doug Martin higher than his current ADP, which is 19th overall, running back 9 off the board in standard?
My dude got paid. He got that money. That scares me. We've seen it. We've talked about it in previous podcasts. Players get that money, and then the players that are driven by that, they don't do as well. I mean, we've seen it multiple times where players that are money driven, once they get that paycheck, they fall off. I believed in Doug Martin so much. I wanted him to be so good, and he scorned me. I'm hurt deeply. I will probably never draft him again. So I could take him in the 5th round, and I would still struggle with it.
I mean, I think that just to follow up what he's saying, I agree that he's kind of a scary player. You had his rookie year where he was absolutely fantastic, but when you break down that fantasticness, it was a couple of games that were huge, and then there was a bunch of kind of all right games. Then the last 2 years, just not a whole lot going on, and then last year he kind of came out and put on a really good show, 1,400 yards, not a lot of touchdowns, which I think that's one thing that could be improved, and that could put him in the category of a top 5. But I understand. I mean, he's kind of one of the scarier top backs because you look at that and you say, okay, he did well last year because he was going after that contract. He got paid. Does he return to the previous 2 years, or what are we getting? What are we getting out of him? So I understand.
And Bankley, what do you think Charles Sims is a reason that he might be dropping down a little bit in running backs?
I think a little bit. Charles Sims, I see as more of last podcast we kind of talked like a Theo Riddick, a Duke Johnson, a Danny Woodhead. Like we're those pass catching type backs. I kind of see him as more of that kind of a role, either like of a Gio and stuff.
He's a Giovanni Bernard. Say it.
He is like a Giovanni Bernard. Where he's more than pass catching. He is like a pass catching. I think that's maybe why you see that is because they think he's going to take a little bit more of a role in that offense, and we're keeping with the same offensive coordinator, so it's going to be the same schemes as you see from last year. So, and you saw towards the end of the season, Charles Sims got more and more into that time with Doug Martin.
The one question that I have about that is that when you talk about Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell, you talk about them individually of what their strengths are. I mean, Crowell's not a great runner, but I mean, he's still, kind of the end zone guy. Gio and Hill, same kind of thing. With Doug Martin and Charles Sims, it kind of seems like Sims really is the true backup there. And I think that he is kind of the ultimate insurance policy for Doug Martin holders. And if you are scared about taking Doug Martin that early, you can get Chris Sims. Yeah. You can get
wow,
yeah.
Chris
You
Sims.
can get, you can get him at a decent value later on in your drafts, and so I think that's one way to kind of come away from feeling better about that pick because I think that he is the true backup. It's not really a pure split like it is in those other teams.
Doug Martin, he is going almost a full round later in PPR drafts as opposed to standard league drafts too. And he's not really known for his passing game, but he actually has been pretty productive in the passing role as well on those third downs. But
yeah, he had like 30 catches last year, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Mm-mm.
Okay, next question. I'll direct this one to Alex. In a startup dynasty, which wide receivers are you taking above Mike Evans? I'll play a little name game here with
Okay.
you, see if you would take one of these guys over Mike Evans. Obviously, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, Julio
Yeah.
Jones, probably
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins,
Yep.
Des Bryant,
Ooh. Yes, tentatively.
A.J. Green,
Yeah. I'm taking AJ Green.
Allen Robinson,
Allen Robinson.
Jordy Nelson,
I'm still taking Jordy.
Brandon Marshall,
I think that's probably where I would go toward Evans.
Alshon Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
And that's the cutoff for people that are actually going above Mike Evans in Dynasty right now.
So, yeah.
Then right after him would be Amari Cooper.
I take Cooper.
I like Cooper a little bit more. I think that I think the one thing is that Heath Evans is
Heath
Heath Evans?
God, man.
Wow. Do we even really know anybody on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I didn't know about these players.
I didn't know that they had a team. I didn't even know they had a team.
Is this the Pride podcast?
This is. Oh gosh. Mike Evans. I think that there's, for some reason, for me, there's just kind of this, like, I want to see what they do with their team. I think that a lack of, Vincent Jackson's getting pretty old, and I think that that's kind of part of the reason is that Vincent Jackson doesn't scare people anymore. I think that even Michael Crabtree scares people a little bit more than what Vincent Jackson does now, and I think that that's why I would lean toward a Cooper. But I don't know, Tampa Bay has this kind of sneaky, solid team that could actually do fairly well across the board on offense.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I would still take Cooper. Just real quick. What made Mike Evans stand out his rookie year was because his touchdowns. He had 12 touchdowns. Last year he only had 3.
Yeah.
So, it worries me. Is it just because he's so good because he's touchdown dependent? We obviously know touchdowns can fluctuate from year to year, but I just feel Cooper will be more consistent. And
Yeah. Last year, he's currently the wide receiver 11 off the board. The ADP range is between 20 and 24, depending on PPR and standard. But he's only 22 years old. That's 2 years younger than Keenan Allen. So
Yeah.
he's super young. He had 148 targets last year, which ranked 9th in the league. But he only had 3 touchdowns off those 148 targets. So even that number is likely to rise. His targets are likely to rise, plus his touchdowns are likely.
He barely caught half those passes, didn't he?
He caught exactly half. He caught 74. So 14 out of the 15 top wide receivers in fantasy last season had at least 8 touchdowns. So if you give Evans 8 touchdowns last year, he would have been wide receiver 12. If you give him 12 last year, which would have been the same as his rookie year that he got, he's wide receiver 7. So,
Yeah.
but little trivia question: can you name the one wide receiver out of the top 15 that did not get 8 touchdowns?
No idea.
No guesses. All right. That would be Demaryius Thomas.
Okay, that
He
makes
had
sense.
6.
Duh.
So I guess my biggest thing on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I can't even say there was hype, but you know how Oakland and Jacksonville performed last year. They produced a lot of fantasy studs, and they were just this fun, exciting young team that you like to watch. I almost feel like Tampa Bay could be that sneaky team, like Alex was saying, that they're going to be this year's Oakland or Jacksonville almost. If they can provide another wide receiver, younger guy that might be able to step up, that's going to be a fun, exciting team to watch.
I feel like that's the
Especially
one
if
piece of
Austin
them missing. Yeah.
Austin Seferian-Jenkins, if he can come around and get out of his mental stage that he's in right now and perform like an elite tight end, like he's shown he can be, I mean, this would be a great team to watch and have fun with.
I'm interested in Cameron Brate.
Yeah, even him too.
Yeah.
To see if he can step up into that role and take over for ASJ.
Mike Evans was the victim of nobody else being there to catch the ball. So the balls were just being thrown in his direction every play.
But yeah,
That's
his
why he
touchdowns
had
were
so many
down.
targets.
Well, I think that's because he only caught 50%. So I don't think that he was being thrown the ball because he was the best option. And I think that's the problem.
It was just being
getting
thrown
the
in
ball.
his direction is all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this team this year, especially their offense. They've got a good young team other than Vincent Jackson, but I think Mike Evans could be where he's getting drafted, he has extremely high upside to be a top tier wide receiver, I think.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he jumps into a top 5 this year. Honestly.
It's possible.
Absolutely.
Just based on volume.
Yeah, you can't argue with targets.
Mm-hmm.
Targets you want that. So awesome, Brent. Good stuff. Alex, you got the runners up from last year.
Yep.
Carolina Panthers.
Just to kind of, we want to get the Cam Newton talk done with. Romain, do you think that he can get better than he was last year? Do you think that he kind of has hit a point where maybe he'll be this player for years to come? Do you see him falling off? And when I mean falling off, not like a couple touchdowns here or there. I mean, he had 10 rushing touchdowns. Do you see a considerable drop, or do you think this is the player he's going to be for years to come now?
I think it's going to be hard for him to replicate those running touchdowns. I think that Cam showed a lot last year as a quarterback, just as a leader. I think that he took a big step forward. I would love to say that I could see him ascending higher, but I think that's about his peak. I don't think he's going to get any better than he was last year. He had 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I think he would be lucky to replicate his passing touchdowns from last year, and I don't think that he gets the same amount of rushing ones.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I still think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback, though. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been that every year he's been in the league except for one, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if you give him 32 touchdowns through the air, another 6, give him 6 on the ground. He's still going to be a quarterback 5.
Well, and talking about the running backs, Brent, the top 3 running backs. Not including Cam Newton, but the actual running backs, all 3 of the top had 4.1 yards per carry. And that was Jonathan Stewart, Cameron Payne, and Mike Tolbert. But they weren't a team outside of Cam Newton that you really cared about their running game. And really putting Stewart in there was kind of, he didn't go over 1,000 yards. He just didn't have a great season. Do you see one of these players? Mike Tolbert's kind of more of a fullback, but between Stewart and Artis Payne or any of the other running backs on the roster, do you see somebody coming out and being a dominant force, or does Cam Newton just take away so much from the running game that they're more of the running back 2 or 3?
I'll always recommend Fozzie Whitaker to you.
Those are the worst.
I made you lose 1 week just because of Fozzie Whitaker.
Oh, God.
But no, I think the way their offense runs is through Cam Newton. He's going to change the plays at the line of scrimmage, and if he runs the ball way too much for me to feel confident in drafting a Jonathan Stewart higher than a RB3 probably. RB2 maybe with upside, but right now an RB3 would be perfectly fine with me. He's got a decent floor. I think he had 8 games where he rushed for 20 rushes or more or 100 yards, something like that. It was pretty decent run consecutive game streak that he had, but I don't know. Jonathan Stewart would be the only one I feel comfortable in drafting.
Okay. Last year, Ted Ginn came out and kind of filled the role of Kelvin Benjamin. Aside from not talking about injury, but is there any way that Ted Ginn still is the number 1 receiver on that team, or does Kelvin Benjamin, without a doubt, take over and it's going to be, Ted Ginn kind of goes back to being Ted Ginn. Josh?
Ted who? Ted who?
Ted Ginn.
No, I don't think Ted Ginn. I think he'll be a third option. He dropped a lot of passes last year too. I think he was just what's left they had, and I don't think Devin Funchess stepped up. Now I've been hearing a lot of things out of training camp that Devin Funchess has been the star out of that camp, and he's been made leaps and bounds of improvement. And actually, Kelvin Benjamin is actually not conditioning very well. He's winded after pass routes and stuff is what I'm hearing. So I think it's going to be Kelvin, and then it's going to be Devin Funchess will be number 1, number 2. I see Tegan could be a number 3 and could be probably number 4 or 5 wide receiver, but I don't see him taking a step up like he did last year. I think it was simply a process of elimination that why Ted Ginn was relevant last year.
Yeah. Well, I heard the fantasy footballers today say that Carolina wide receiver core is pretty much 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E.
Yeah.
The same. I didn't realize Ted Ginn was that old, though. He's 31 years old.
Well, he's been around a while.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was in the league that long, though.
Yeah. That's pretty much what happened with the Panthers. It's not the Panthers, for being a team that made it to the Super Bowl and was 15-1. They're kind of boring outside of Cam Newton. There's just nothing other than Cam Newton to that team, and to me, that kind of rings setback year for me. It's kind of I think that because there were years where Donovan McNabb was asked to do absolutely everything. And then, Westbrook kind of helped out a little bit, but then there was 2 players on that team, and then there was just rotating, wide receivers and tight ends and things like that. So, being an Eagles fan, and I've seen them the Super Bowl slump kind of come after, I could see that happening to Carolina, honestly.
100%. All right, Alex. Well, thanks for that. Van Cleve, you had the Atlanta Falcons. Let's talk about them.
Let's go to the Dirty South, y'all. So we know that Shanahan's offense loves to feed the extra receiver, and so Julio is going to get his own. But my question is, will Matt? And we talked. It was funny because we actually had this conversation. We may have to have it again. I didn't realize we were going to talk about it in the last podcast. But Matt Ryan, do you guys think that he will return back to the fantasy stardom?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. Moving on.
Honestly, I really don't see him being more than maybe a wide receiver. God,
he's a wide receiver?
Yeah.
I don't see himself more than a probably quarterback 9. He's always going to be in that quarterback 8 to 12 range. It feels like he's never going to get better than that, and he's never going to get worse. I don't think that they
got better. Honestly, I don't think that getting Mohamed Sanu changed. Do you really think that Mohamed Sanu is that much better than Roddy White?
They got better at tight end.
Well, hopefully. That remains to be seen. We still have Jacob Tamme out there and boring up the place. My argument of Atlanta is that when you have one of the best wide receivers, you need a good complement. I still don't think they have that complement pass catcher yet, and I think that's going to be a big problem for them. And I think that was the problem last year, and I'm not 100% sure that they took care of that in the offseason.
I think one of their biggest additions in the offseason was the center. They got Alex Mack from Cleveland. He's one of the best centers in the league. That's going to help the running game, the passing game, give Matt Ryan, who's been sacked a ton over the last few seasons, he's going to get more protection, more time to throw the ball, and less interceptions.
Yep. So continuing on with that tight end talk, you have Jacob Tamme, who you saw some games have some fantasy relevance, but a lot of times just nothing really there. And, Tony Gonzalez was a great tight end, and you saw Matt Ryan flourish under him. Do you think that Austin Hooper could be a great, viable tight end that I'm not going to say he's beating Tony Gonzalez, but do you think he's going to be a fantasy relevant, viable tight end this year, or is he a stash for like next year?
I think of any tight end, I think he has the best chance of the rookie tight ends. I mean, there's kind of 3 tight ends. I think that he has the best chance, not just the best chance to start, but the best chance to do well. There's kind of a big learning curve for tight ends, so that's why you haven't seen guys like Eric Ebron, kind of break out as that big go-to guy. But I could see him doing halfway decent, being a decent backup on your team. I could see him doing that.
Romine, Brent, you guys have anything about that?
Yeah, Jacob Tammy's going to outscore Hooper this year.
Vomit. That's bad.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Until a tight end comes in here and proves it wrong, I'm not buying it.
So where do you see Tammy at? What is he? Tight end 1, tight end 2, tight end 3?
Tight end 1.
Should he be going ahead of Jordan Reed right now?
No. Jacob Tammy is a last resort for your team. Tight end 3,
man. Yeah, I don't even know if he earns last resort. Jacob Tammy is so boring.
Yeah, like he may be a bye-week filler. I'm saying I'm not drafting him. I maybe would pick him up if both my tight ends were on bye and I had to start somebody and he was matched up against a good matchup. I could play him in that kind of situation. I'm not drafting Tammy. I would draft Hooper if I have a taxi squad and I can dump him on that forever until I want to pull him up. I'm fine with that, but I don't think he's going to have value this year. Maybe one of these years, maybe he'll prove us wrong. But
do you know this last year was his only year? Well, I not say his only year. It was his best year as far as yardages go.
You talk about Jacob Tammy?
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me. He had 650 yards, something like that.
Yeah, and like he had like 59 receptions. But he only had 1 touchdown, so he was not a threat in the red zone.
He's so boring.
Yeah, that's exactly like I said. So maybe you picked him up last year when they played Tampa Bay, and he went for 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Guess what? That was his only great game. He had another game with 8 catches, 94 yards. I'm telling you, like the only reason I'm picking up Tammy is if I have to start somebody. He has a great matchup. I start him once and then I drop him. And I pick up somebody else.
That's all I have about the Dirty South.
So exciting. So much stuff to talk about there, but that's all you have.
Wow. We spent 5 minutes to pick up Tammy. Thanks a lot, Van Cleve.
Oh, Joshua. All right. Well, let's move it on to the Saints. That's my team. I want to know, Brent, how good is Coby Fleener really? I want you to tell me what's the worst case scenario in this situation, because he's getting moved up those boards. People are taking him as like the 4th tight end off the board sometimes.
I mean, you're just anticipating he's going to get Jimmy Graham-like numbers. That's really what it is. He's similar size except lighter weight, but I mean, you think he's going to be this PPR guy or something, but I don't know. I think he's being drafted too high. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets those kind of stats being in that offense, but at the same time, I'd rather see it happen before I start drafting him that high to be my tight end 1. I'd want him as maybe a later back end tight end 1, early tight end 2, something like that. But
I think that I'm maybe not as high as he's going, but I think his floor is Ben Watson numbers. I mean, I think that I think that Coby Fleener is better. He's younger. He's I think he's more athletic than Ben Watson, and I think that that's the floor. I think that he has the possibility to be a top 5 tight end easily.
So you said Ben Watson's numbers are his floor?
I think so.
I don't know. I hope that you're right. Where Kobe Fleener right now, according to Fantasy Pros, is going off the board as the seventh tight end, 68th overall. I'd buy that. I thought he was going a little bit higher. I feel like that number is going to get pushed up. There's so much hype concerning him this year.
It's because it's not because of Jimmy Graham. It's because of what happened with Ben Watson last year. Ben Watson has not really ascended at all until last year. And I think that's the reason why Kobe Fleener, because it's like, well, if Ben Watson can do it, anybody can do it. So
Right.
I think that's the reason why he's climbing up the charts here, because you look at a guy like Ben Watson, he's been in the league for so many seasons and just has been very mediocre, and then having a stellar year, that's what we're looking at. And I honestly kind of buy into that hype, because if you can make Ben Watson look great, I think you can make Kobe Fleener look great.
All right, so you think his floor is what Ben Watson did last year? I would buy that all day long. All right, second question. Where are you looking to target Mark Ingram, Van Cleve?
I would say I would probably target him probably late second, early third.
So in like a 2-3 turn?
Yeah, I can see some really good value in there. I think there's some wide receivers and running backs I take ahead of him right now as it is. But I could see him 2-3, somewhere around there. That's what I would take him at. I think that he could still have a decent year. I just don't think that he's a first-round running back, though.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Alex, so Mark Ingram, according to Fantasy Pros, is the 23rd overall player, so running back 11. No?
I don't want any stock in him. I mean, I have never liked him.
Yeah.
I kind of softened a little bit because he finally started to put something together, but then he got hurt again, and injuries have been kind of an issue for him early in his career. I just don't want anything to do with it. Every time when he was good, the Saints were bad. And I don't want a player that makes their team bad because they're being used, because then they will stop being used. And when the Saints run the ball, they're not very good. They're good when they pass the ball, and I just don't want stock in the reason why a team isn't winning.
So you think that Mark Ingram's not going to have a good season? Is that what you're saying?
I think that I have reservations about, first, how high he's going, and I don't like the fact that when he's good, the team is bad. So I think the team will probably – I think he'll be kind of middle of the road like he has been the first couple of the seasons. Can he go over 1,000 yards? I think so. So, I mean, he's decent, but I don't like where he's going.
Yeah, like why bring it. I think he's going really high, and I've talked previously about how I would take him at that 2-3 turn. I've been okay with that. And it's starting, the more I look into it, the more it starts to scare me. Like you said, the Saints defense was so terrible last year. People were throwing all over them, so they have to make up points. Once Drew Brees was healthy coming in there, Ingram got injured, I think, later in the season. So
he's right around the point where, do you want Ingram or do you get Murray, DeMarco Murray, or do you wait, get Ryan Matthews later? Honestly, I like both of them better, and I think that Ryan Matthews has, an injury history too, and I think that there's more to, I think that success comes from Ryan Matthews running, where it seemed to me that Ingram running actually hurt the Saints. So I just don't want anything really to do with them, honestly.
So I was talking about that ADP, being 23. Let me play a little name game right now with you guys. So Ingram's going in front of Mike Evans.
No. I'll take Mike Evans there.
All day. Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy.
I would definitely take.
Brandon Cooks.
I wouldn't take Brandon Cooks.
So where it starts to go iffy for you.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen is going after that. Sammy Watkins. Demaryius Thomas, T.Y. Hilton, C.J. Anderson.
See, but it depends on how there are so many wide receivers in that area that I look at how all the wide receivers that are right there. versus what's there available to me at running back, I'm going to go wide receiver there.
Yeah, every time.
Every time, because it's like, okay, I could grab LaShawn McCoy. I feel confident in grabbing him. However, if he's not available, there's not anybody else around him that is worth picking. So why would you pick the by far worst player in that category when you could get a top flight wide receiver? It's kind of a no-brainer to me, honestly.
Well, Mark Ingram's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season in his career, nor a double-digit touchdown season either. And so, if you're looking for that number one running back, you're not going to find it in him. He's I think a number two, and I don't even know if he has upside. I mean, he does, but he just. I mean, he's only had one season where he's played all 16 games. He's never finished the season or had a full season. So.
Yeah, like I see Mark Ingram being that guy. If you started out your draft 3 wide receivers in a row, maybe he's coming off 4th round to you as your running back.
Still, that's scary if he's your best shot.
Really?
I don't know.
I
don't like
as scared if I get 3 top wide receivers in the first 3 rounds.
I don't know.
That'd be a fantastic running back 1 if you get him in the 4th round.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Because I think that there's a good chance you don't get enough games out of him, and he isn't worth that. I think that you can still get, quality players like Murray and Ryan Matthews that I don't want anything to do with Ingram. I don't think that there's a lot of upside to Ingram, so I don't want him as my number 1 running back. I just don't. I'd almost rather go 4.
Game though too.
Yeah.
He had 50 catches last year. So you'd rather have Ryan Matthews than Mark Ingram?
Honestly, yeah. And I know that's an injury risk. I know that's. I don't know. It might just be a thing for me. I just don't like Ingram. I just don't.
Would you rather have Thomas Rawls?
Yes.
Latavius Murray?
Yes.
Did you say yes to Carlos Hyde earlier?
Oh, I would definitely take Carlos Hyde.
And those are all guys that are going after Ingram, so.
Yeah, I would definitely take those guys.
And I mean, a lot of us, there's just guys in drafts that we don't like. We're not going to touch no matter how far they drop down the draft either. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's one of the guys for you.
Some guys it's just a gut feeling. Like, you could be totally wrong. Like, you could look at the stats and like, I don't understand why this is, but you just don't like the player, and you just don't want them on your team. And sometimes you look like an idiot, sometimes you look like a genius. It's just how it works.
Yeah. All right, well, I don't really have anything else on the Saints unless you guys have something else you want to touch on. No?
No, I mean, they're kind of, because they're so efficient, they're kind of boring to talk about. Like, slightly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't know, like, I was debating on whether or not we should talk about Drew Brees just because, he's going so high, and that passing offense, it could be dynamic, but I don't know if there's really much to say.
Yeah,
he's elite. I mean,
yeah,
you can get him at great value this year, unlike in previous years, but even that's on the rise as drafts are going on. So, I mean, he keeps going higher and higher in drafts just because of the hype that surrounds him and him being an elite quarterback. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, everybody, for stopping out and listening. We appreciate it. Next week, we're going to be talking a little NFC West, a little AFC West. So we'll get on the studying on those guys. Hop on Twitter. Follow us, number 4 Horsemen Pod. Get on the old computers and send us an email, 4horsemenpod@gmail.com.
I'm going to be excited when we finally get an email.
I check it every day, and I get like a spam from Number Fire, and I'm like, God damn, so close. But
one day.
Thanks for coming out, guys. Peace.
Bye.
See ya.